the Honorable Minister, my personal friend and a great inspiration as a professional. He was so generous and humble, and I endorse Mr. Han's view. There is no better human in this planet other than my great friend, great minister, than Mr. Suresh. It was an extraordinary feel for me to realize 33 years before I went to him for a job. I'll tell you the story very succinctly. He asked me, what are your priorities? I said, I am come from the middle class. These are my priorities. Should I suggest to you one thing? You should step out and make your living faster than anyone else. And that was triggered me to go for the Gulf. I never returned. And thanks to the mentorship he played, and extraordinary human being of par excellence, irrespective of the position he holds, a great human of substance and substantive compliance. I welcome one and all, distinguished guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the CII for putting this interesting and exciting space. Today morning I had the press conference. We just finished the discussion on the media. On and off the media. Today I had interface with on multiple questions. The first questions one of the media guy was asking me is India is truly performing? Is the Prime Minister trip across the globe has been contributory? The oil price is deflecting in the Gulf. Why are you here? What you can do for India? And again, is India is a good investment destination? Are you counting on the Indian bureaucracy? And is there a transformational leadership in current contributions? Well, if I answer all these questions, perhaps I have done my part. If you look at the changing face of the world, changing face on account of globalization and re-regulation, technology and consumerism, India is the front runner today, a fastest growing economy. Last month I was in Lima, Peru, IMF meeting. The subject of discussion was India. As a functional democracy, with the change in face of Indian demographic dividend, and again, the brand equity is personally being built by the Indian Prime Minister, there's no question India is subject of foremost runner, and this century belongs to India. This century belongs to India. Not because I'm a patriot or an Indian, I'm saying this. There are extraordinary set of transformations we have brought in the last 18 months. We have to recognize this. Look at the global map today. The global growth still grossly underperforming. Less than 2009. 3.1 to 3.3 is what IMF is saying last month, a consolidated growth for the entire planet. Eradication of extreme poverty, gender equality, setting environment sustainability, bringing universal care, bringing universal education. If that has to happen, you need a striking balance to see some of the emerging market like India is in the forefront and they transform in terms of incremental growth and productivity. And precisely we have seen the leadership in the last 18 months, setting the right kind of administration. Today, India is a brand which is being recognized world over. Ask my managers, 15 countries are here. These 15 countries are the countries where the Prime Minister has visited, and the euphoria, the initiative which the Prime Minister has created as a brand is extraordinary, and they all said unanimously this time, India is emerging to be a superpower in terms of substance and substantive values. That's not an exaggeration. Some of the pragmatic initiatives taken are contributory for us to see advanced economies are grossly underperforming. What has changed in the last 6 to 7 years? Liquidity. When we realized Lehman Brothers collapsed, when we realized Bastion was bought over by JP Morgan, we thought it is the financial crisis on account of liquidity. Liquidity crisis moved into a funding crisis moved into a solvency crisis. Today, it's a sovereign crisis world over today. Advanced economies are just depending on accommodative monetary policy, improving the liquidity, increasing the assets, financial assets, and try to inflate the financial market, stocks, currency, commodities, bond. That's not sustainable. That's not sustainable in real economic intrinsic terms. The United States still contemplating an options to raise the interest rates. That's, in my opinion, as a premature step. Unemployment, yes, jobless claims have reduced. Housing market has recovered. Can they sustain the original promulgation of 3.5 to 4%? The answer is no. It's quite uneven in real terms when it comes to growth. Europe, if you look at as a design, is finding its difficulty. The monetary policy is centralized, fiscal policy is decentralized. Essentially, European central banks, while Americans are contemplating an options to raise the interest rate after stopping the quantitative easing, Europe is still saying, we will pump excess liquidity. We will inflate because the inflation is less than 0.1. And substantive 16 enlarge Europe is essentially a design question. And they are going to have a huge amount of liquidity chasing the stock market and the currency market. The currency reflection today is reflecting in the trade. Currency war has created trade war today. Global growth is contemplating between 3 to 3.1. The trade has not moved more than 2.5 to 2.8%. That's the reality. Competitive devaluation has been engaged in countries like China. The world at large is still reeling under pressure. Extraordinary set of reorganization required in terms of setting universal standard in terms of accounting, valuation, securitization. Here is a country which is propelling 7.4%, as the minister has said. While we talked about the advanced economies, within the breakup of advanced economies, if you look at it, Japan is still going on with Abenomics. Trillions of dollars have been, rather, yen has been put into open market operations. They are trying to inflate from technical recessions. Recession to reflation has been the trend. When it comes to UK, again, it's a very marginal growth. They haven't resolved. Looking at the BRIC states, Russia is under geopolitical sanction, and we have seen the reflection of technical recession. Brazil is going through contraction. China is slowing down. We have offices in all these locations which I mentioned. And India is the only frontrunner for us to realize this country is setting its wings across the globe in trade, investments, banking, and finance. That's the reflection we are seeing in real order. And we have to understand how the Gulf economies can collaborate in substance and substantive business opportunities in real order. If you look at the Gulf states, 1.8 trillion economy as the en bloc 6 states put together. Today, it's regressed to 1.37. Topping in the list is Saudi Arabia with 639 billion. And then comes United Arab Emirates, which includes Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and other Emirates, $332 billion, taking oil at the current price. And again, third is Qatar, a small country with 2.4 million population, 11,947 square kilometers, is pumping over 200 billion GDP dollars. Then comes Kuwait, 124 billion. Then comes Oman, 62 billion. Bahrain is 31 billion. Summing it up, it's 1.37. If you look at the current status, even at the current price, it still can run, certain parts of the Gulf can run in current account surplus. Certain parts will run in current account deficit, but fiscal surplus is out of order. If you look at the bigger picture, the aggregate growth of the Gulf states still is commendable compared to the rest of the world, between 4 to 4.5%. Qatar itself is propelling, according to IMF, not less than 4.7%. That's the reality. The purpose of the session today, Naresh was asking, what's the purpose, what you have to offer to the audience? We have growing opportunities for us to realize this is the block, as the minister has rightly said, this is the logical fitment in terms of business, synergistic business. In terms of trade, we have $133 billion ongoing. The deflection is on account of the oil price, the commodities prices, whether it's oil or LNG or petrochemicals. We have seen the regression. And many of you wants to resolve the mystery, why the oil price is going down. It's not necessarily on account of the demand and supply alone. Nothing has regressed or progressed, supply or demand, significantly to have this price deflection. The currency also plays a bigger role. Dollar as a basket of index has moved from 75 basis points today, 100 basis points. That's over 35%. That has direct impact on your commodity. What do you do when you have weak dollar? You hedge the risk by buying commodity futures. As the minister said, there is no oil future today. If you look at the commodity future trading corporations results, speculations are no more. That is the real reasons. And in the short and medium term, you don't have anything other than strong dollars, and there is no oil futures or commodity futures, which is going to destabilize countries like India. That's real. But the bilateral opportunities, if you look at 133 billion, if you look at the split, it's on account. India imports oil, gas, and petrochemicals. India exports, in addition to human capital. Proximity and human capital is the biggest strength India has got in the Gulf. Over 7.5 million people today, as again the minister has mentioned, the largest recipient of the remittances. India is improving in all directions. But let's look at the bilateral opportunities in substance before I see what sort of synergistic values we can evolve by creating a new business model which will endure your substance as a businessman, or whichever be the trade or industry you engage in. And precisely the reason why we thought it's appropriate to share the knowledge. If you look at the bilateral trade, a significant portion of the bilateral trade is from the United Arab Emirates. That is 60 billion. When the Prime Minister came this year, 75 billion was the committed investments Abu Dhabi investment authorities have said. Never in the history, the entire ruling family received the one country's state head in the airport. That's the level of respect they have for Indians. Indian transformatory leadership, which they are witnessing. It's true. That's the character the Gulf states have realized. Again, as the minister said, 1/3 of the global sovereign funds still lies with the Gulf states. The investment has not flown as much as it should have been. In spite of proximity, in spite of human capital investments, you have huge investments, inward investments to attract from the Gulf to India. That's one of the reasons I'm standing here. If you look at the bigger picture, Abu Dhabi has committed for 75 billion, up to 75 billion in terms of investments. Qatar itself, I was telling Ms. Naresh, the minister, 10 billion annual investments. The bilateral trade is around $16 billion in the current market price. And recently, Petronet and Rosgas, which supplies the oil and gas right from since 2004, has waived the penalty and reorganized the current continuing commitments in terms of pricing. That 16 billion they have committed for investments in India. The Saudi Arabia is an important country which has got bilateral trade worth of $40 billion. And the Prime Minister mission is clearly to bring investments from Saudi as well. And when it comes to Oman, that's around 6 billion, Bahrain is around 4 billion, and again 14 billion comes from Kuwait. If these 6 states put together, sovereign trillion, multi-trillions, portion comes into Gulf, from the Gulf to India rather, you have your infrastructure funds are fully packed in terms of capital commitments. And that's what we want. Out of 6.6 trillion global sovereign funds, 2.34 trillion, according to the Gulf sovereign funds recent statistics, is the investable surplus. It has been invested in multiple markets and multiple segments. Now they realize India is the safest destination. They have seen the transformation in terms of markets. They have seen the investment climate. India has been upgraded in terms of global competitiveness. The World Economic Forum is saying it. And again, World Bank is saying it. And India is investment grade, whether it is Moody's or S&P's or Fitch or rating agencies are saying that. And the market liberalization the current ministry has brought in is extraordinary. Again, 100% railway has been liberalized. He has secured over multiple billions right from Japan. My representative of Japan is here. Multiple sectors, whether it is Mumbai-Ahmedabad corridor, it is fully secured. Whether it is Panvel corridor, it is secured. Suburban corridors are secured. And the transformation he brought in the railway mechanism is extraordinary. They have never seen such transformations. Governance in terms of technology advantage is visible. When it comes to healthcare, 100% is opening up. When it comes to insurance, 49% opened up. When it comes to banking, we ourselves is a showcase to bring this liberalization to prospects to see whether it's trade or investments, banking or finance, we play a role. So extraordinary set of reorganization taking place in India. So don't underestimate India. Sitting in India, perhaps you may not realize the gravity of the change and the brand equity which we are building in. Globally, if you look at it, I have visited in the last 15 months all these countries where the Prime Minister has visited. My representative offices are there to watch and evidence the kind of the sensation and the kind of safety which India has projected today for bringing investments with a committed exit strategy, with a committed incentives, including reorganization of minimum alternative tax, seem to be believed India is the safest destinations. What does it mean to you from the Gulf perspective? Gulf is a real opportunity in real order simply because what's the major challenge India is going through? While the macroeconomic stability is strong and sound, inflation is under control thanks to the oil price as well, your current account deficit is contained, your fiscal consolidation is visible, your remittances are improving. As he rightly said, over 70 billion is coming, largest recipient, significant portion, over 42 billion coming from the Gulf states. Your foreign direct investments is improving, better than the rest of the world today. In the first 9 months, India has procured more than any other country in the world. You can't ask for testimony beyond this. The bond market was invested over 56 billion. It was 40 billion earlier, last year by this time. So you are sending signals in not only in qualitative terms, in quantitative terms for you to realize here is the safest destinations. You have strong economic background. You have a demographic dividend. So consumerism is progressively advancing to see we have a very strong partnership which we can build it, whether it's trade or investment, banking or finance, between the Gulf states and India. And that's what logically fits in. While the macroeconomic stability is stable and functional, the policy makeup is getting reorganized, structurally getting reorganized, to make India as competitive as the rest of the world. We also have to understand the challenges Indian business community has got. Still, the cost of financing is high. Who can support you than the Gulf banks? Proximity, and these are AA-rated countries. These are commodity-driven economies, not paper. Irrespective of the deflation of the oil price, the economic fundamentals are strong. The financial stabilities are clear. And creating a window, as Vedanta is planning to project and integrate, whether it's healthcare or trade or small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, you have a huge opportunity for you to globalize your business model if you recognize Gulf is an opportunity. And that's precisely we are here to add on. Simply recognizing the opportunities, the investment climate you have in the Gulf states, and integrating the investment partnership by bringing investments from the Gulf partners, having a know-how from here, you have procured a long-term viability for you to globally be competitive. The second challenge you have is to recognize your cost of financing needs to be measured and managed and controlled. If your cost of financing is high, your manufacturing cost is high if you're a manufacturer. If your manufacturing cost is high, your final output cost is high and selling cost is going to be high and you are not competitive. Where else you can buy a cheaper finance? It is the Gulf states. For the reasons which I mentioned, the prime cost for a good corporates, it's still running. Perhaps tomorrow, with the change in phase of dollar, it might increase or decrease. But as we see it today, the prime rate is going between 5 to 6% for extraordinary corporates. I am financing for many of the Indian corporates, whether it's L&T or Shapurji or Voltas, name it. There are many more corporates can create a window, as Vedanta is planning to do, set up a Gulf operations, and make sure you have investment partnership going, integrating people, cost-effective labor from India. Cost of financing is cheaper, and you have a competitive tax offering as well. One of the chartered accountants, he asked me, what's your tax systems? I said, it's a flat tax, 10%. 10%, there's no proportional tax. If you have a tax holiday for certain know-hows, certain industry specialists, but otherwise also you have a flat tax, 10%. That's competitive in real order. Create a window and make sure your business is integrated vertically and horizontally with the Gulf states, and you become a trendsetter for global exports. And that's what the Gulf states is trying to articulate. They're setting up free zones. They are importing laborers from India. They are reorganizing the market reforms to see Gulf and India are coming together. Of late, the synergistic values are getting realigned with India more than any other country. Change in market preference in real order. Because, as the minister has mentioned, they have invested in multiple market and multiple sectors. They are not able to generate diversification as a structured solution. Hitherto, oil and gas is the major GDP breakdown. When there is a deflection in the oil, they have to balance it out through diversification. Where else they can balance it out unless they invest in a progressive economy and productive economy, front-running economy like India. That is why Abu Dhabi investment authorities or Kuwait investment authorities or Qatar investment authorities are committing. While Abu Dhabi was committing $75 billion, Qatar was propelling. Last week they made a statement, public statement, $10 billion annually. Annually. So what we need to do? What we need to do, whether you are a big corporate or small and medium-sized enterprise, is to recognize dissemination of information and see what sort of business you need to set up and why you should set up, reasons which I gave, and then see whether you need capital. Here we are to support the capital. We can introduce, through the sovereign funds, institutional investors. There are high net worth individuals who are engaged in very similar business model. Vedanta itself is engaging in healthcare, a synergistic form and substance. And there are many other businessmen whom we are integrating into a real order to converge on your business and make sure you have a big capital support comes in, investment partnership comes in terms of capital. If you're a small and medium-sized entrepreneur, all the more better. I have signed with SME Chamber of India before even setting up a commercial operations here, way back in 2010. Billions of riyals have given for small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, and they have been successful entrepreneurs. And it's a successful business operation even for Doha Bank. Today, as desired by the national authorities in the Gulf states, they have realized sustainability is not on account of big corporates or oil and gas corporates. They have to engage in terms of growth. They have to create employment by creating entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, as well as commercial ventures, by encouraging their new generation partnership. And Indian business houses are coming there. There are hundreds of free zones created. The tax holidays have been proclaimed. And for me, getting a mezzanine capital or seed capital is easy. And again, financing a debt is equally easy for me because I've been guaranteed by the national authorities. Qatar development authorities today has given me a significant guarantee. Every $100 I lend, 86 to 87% is guaranteed by the government. Why should I not lend? My risk is only 13%. So you have your capital, you have your tax holidays. If at all you have to pay tax, you pay 10%. If you have a cost-effective borrowings, if you have a cost-effective labor you are integrating from India, and you also have a debt coming from various banks, not only Doha Bank, any other bank will finance you as long as your business model is commercially viable. And risk integration is looked at critically. And we are financing in multiple form and substance. And that is for small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. This kind of opportunities are rare to come. Why? It is coming because of the synergistic value which we are seeing in together. Sitting outside India, I am seeing nowhere I could see India as being the prospect as we are seeing today. Never I felt I'm a proud Indian as much as I'm feeling today. Never. The minister was telling about my personal story, and I am telling you, 33 years before, when I left this country, my passport was looked up and down. Today, wherever you go, whichever be the country, Indians are engaged, they are being respected. Take it from me. That's the reality. And the Prime Minister is the biggest catalyst and is a rock star in the world today to realize this is an opportunity which we have to. It's not only, it is P2P. Global institution, in terms of global governance, some of the significant prospects which we brought in, whether it is G7 has become G20 today, or whether it's IMF or World Bank, India is a telling story. And that's what precisely we are telling in our own way. But now, more than ever, is an opportunity for us to realize. It is an opportunity for us to bring in synergistic trade. While we recognize that global trade is getting dented, Indian trade is becoming formidable for us to catch it up. While investments, institutional, sovereign, or individuals, is going to fly from the Gulf states, as I mentioned, for the reasons which are prolific. Banking is incidental. If the infrastructure creation is coming up, trillions of dollars are required as desired in the 12th Finance Commission. We are here to play a role which is not only my bank, there are other banks wants to come here. India is a prospect. India is still grossly underbanked, undercapitalized. We all know Indian banks needs collaborations. My exposure as on date is over $2.5 billion. And we are here to add value further to corporates and financial institutions to synergize the financing opportunities. With the trade or investments, banking or finance, India and Gulf states are a realistic opportunity. I call upon all the business community here to come and pay a visit. We are here to facilitate, disseminate information, showcase the projects, showcase the opportunities, arrange your debt or equities, and ensuring together we build our tomorrow. And that's precisely the reason why I'm here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention.